Welcome to the exciting universe of music theory. Are you ready to learn? Then let's begin. Today we will talk about what is a mode. This is a difficult question because the definition of a mode has changed over time. If you want to know what a mode is, the answer is different if you are speaking of the modern common usage, or a mode in the context of Renaissance music, or modes as they were used in Gregorian chants. In this video, we will ignore all the ancient definitions of what a mode is, and concentrate only on the modern usage. To begin, we can talk about what is not a mode. A mode is not just starting a major scale on a different degree. That will demonstrate an example of a mode, but that is not what a mode is. Also, a mode is not what you get merely by altering some notes in a major scale. Many people will have learned modes by altering steps of the major scale, like raising a fourth to go into Lydian, or lowering a seventh to go into Mixolydian. This is useful for remembering the diatonic modes, but it can be misleading for a student trying to understand what modes are. We will come back to this later. So, what is a mode? Put quite simply, a mode is a scale with a rotational relationship to another scale. If two scales are related by rotation, then we say that one is a mode of the other. So the mode is the word we use for a relationship between one scale and another. We also use the word mode to refer to the scale that has that relationship. The idea becomes clearer by using an analogy. Think of the word cousin. What is a cousin? A cousin is someone who is the child of your parent's sibling. A cousin is a person, but the word cousin means something specific about the relationship between one person and another. Similarly, a mode is just a scale, but we call something a mode when the scale has a relationship with another scale, just like that person who is a cousin of another person. Let's look at an example. This is Lydian minor. It sounds like this. Visualized as a bracelet, it looks like this. See the pattern of intervals in the way the tones are spaced out around the 12 tones. Because this scale has 7 tones, it also has 7 modes. Think of a mode as just one of the 7 ways that this pattern can be rotated to form another scale. The first mode is itself, Lydian minor, which is scale 1493. Here is the second mode. Third mode. Fourth mode. Fifth mode. Sixth mode. And finally the seventh mode. Each of these 7 modes have the same internal pattern of intervals. They are all related to each other, which makes them a family. In music theory, a modal family is the set of all the scales that are related to each other by rotation in this way. The number of members in the modal family is the same as the number of tones in the scale. A scale with 5 tones will have 5 modes, including itself. A scale with 6 tones will have 6 modes, and so on. When speaking of modes, the first mode of a scale is always itself. Rotating the scale gives you the second mode, then the third, and so on. Remember I said that the number of members in a modal family is the same as the number of tones? Well, not always. Some scales have rotational symmetry. When rotated, they produce duplicates of themselves. In those cases, we ignore those rotations because they don't produce unique scales. There are exactly 35 scales that have rotational symmetry. You may be curious what those are, but that is a topic we can explore another day. When most students begin learning modes, they begin with the major scale. Let's look at that one now. The rotations of a major scale have had a variety of names through the ages. The modern names for them are Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian. That family of 7 scales, all derived from the major scale, are called diatonic. There are 7 diatonic scales, and they are all modes of each other. It is useful to memorize these names because they emerge in music often, and these 7 unique scales have many interesting patterns and characteristics. But it is important to understand that the 7 diatonic scales are not the only modal family that exists. There are in fact 228 different modal families. The 228 modal families encompass all 1490 scales. One of the most interesting things about the diatonic family is that it is possible to transform from one mode to another just by altering individual tones. For example, the difference between a major or Ionian scale and the Lydian scale is simply raising the fourth degree of the scale. Every member of the diatonic family can be transformed into another one of the modes in this way, but please understand, this interesting property is not what makes them modes of each other. The diatonic family is one of only two modal families that have this interesting ability. There are plenty of modal families that are not capable of being transformed like that. Still, these little transformations can be helpful in memorizing the names and patterns of the diatonic scales. For instance, Mixolydian is a major scale but with a minor seventh. Dorian is like major but has a minor third and seventh. Lydian is like major but with an augmented fourth. This is a whole lot easier than calculating in your head that Dorian is the second mode, doing the rotation in your head then transposing down into the current key. It's easier just to remember the transformations of each diatonic mode. You can see a complete list of all the scales and their modal families by going to ianring.com/musictheory/scales. Videos like this one are made possible by the generous donations of patrons. If you enjoy this nerdy stuff, please become a patron of the exciting universe of music theory. Your donation, as little as $1, will help to make more videos exploring this vast and fascinating topic. Become a patron right now. Go to patreon.com/musictheory. Also, give this video a like, share it, and subscribe to this channel.